Sometimes it is really hard to get people to believe you, right? Even your own family, they can doubt you. They can believe what they want to believe about you. They can even go so far as to believe that you are sick, delusional, unstable, highly paranoid, or just simply mentally ill. When family begins to turn on you or in some way kind of minimize your concerns, minimize your fears, and kind of take the attitude and disposition that your experience is not important, when somebody does that to you, whether it's family or anyone, right? It's a very invalidating experience. I, as a therapist, I tend to lean on the side of things where I'm questioning, I'm exploring, I'm curious. I want to know about your experience, what it is that you are struggling with. But not everybody is like that. The moment they hear something that is different, difficult, uncertain, possibly incorrect, or crazy, they run, right? It's not the way to be. Sadly, a lot of people, if they can't relate to your experience, or it sounds absurd, or it looks absurd, or, maybe it just doesn't click for them in the moment, they can sometimes take the position that you are the problem. Stay tuned for my live chat on Saturday, where I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this. But for the purposes of this video, if you feel like you haven't been believed and somebody is in your life believing something else about you, then you want to continue to watch. Anytime I talk to people who feel like they're not being believed, the first thing they tell me is, number one, my family doesn't believe me. They think I'm a pathological liar. And number two, my family thinks I'm delusional or highly paranoid. There's no exact cause of delusion. So it's really difficult for even mental health providers and medical providers of all kind to look at an individual and say, okay, you're delusional, you're paranoid. That's why none of this is making sense. That's why none of this is adding up. We can say that, but it's really hard for us to treat delusional disorder. It's also really difficult for us to know what the trigger was. Now, there's some people who feel like they're not being believed and feel like they're being wrongfully categorized under having delusions or being paranoid. And so, okay, if that's the case, then the other individual, right, who's seeing you that way needs to be educated. But let me highlight to you what could be going on. So let's say, for example, you go to your therapist or you go to a friend or a spouse or a family member and you say, you know what, I'm just really feeling off. I'm feeling like you don't believe anything that I'm telling you. I feel like you're looking too deeply into things. I'm just sharing this with you. I didn't have to share it with you, but I wanted to share it with you, and now I feel like I'm being punished for sharing it. Okay? This is what the other individual could think of you. So let's say that they think you're delusional, that you're paranoid, that something is going on. Could something else be the reason for why you feel this way? Like being watched, being taken advantage of, being stalked, feeling sad and depressed, and feeling all alone. Yes, there are other reasons. Some of the reasons psychology highlights is, for number one, being depressed, sometimes feelings of anhedonia and feeling really deadened and just kind of apathetic can lead to beliefs that are not true or negative or self-destructive, right? And there's also something known as loss-based transitions or loss-based changes that can change the way that you see things. Psychology says that, if you lose things that have been your foundation for so long and next minute they're gone, snatched from you, death, car accident, terrible tragedy, fire, natural disaster, the list goes on, then you could experience symptoms of paranoia. You could experience symptoms that put you in the category of delusions, okay? Also, there's comorbidities when it comes to certain mental health conditions. So if, let's say, for example, you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia in the past, there's a possibility that you could also develop delusions. You can also develop paranoia. Depression and anxiety can also cause delusions and hallucinations if the anxiety is untreated and it's severe. Okay. The other thing that some people look at is personality disorders, especially healthcare providers. Are you borderline? Do you have borderline personality disorder, where sometimes you can be so anxious and so emotional that you dissociate and you enter a different realm of existence, you know? Could it be narcissistic personality disorder, that in terms of gang stalking, you believe that somebody's constantly thinking of you, trying to hack your devices and come after you? So this is another category where people just get kind of stuck, you know? They don't know how to explain what you're telling them, or they don't know how to explain how you see things, and so they kind of categorize you as having a personality disorder, as struggling with loss and grief, as having a really hard time with comorbidities, illnesses that go along with something you're already struggling with. Another thing that you're likely to learn about or hear if somebody doesn't believe you is substance abuse. Maybe you've had a history of substance abuse. Maybe there's a history of being prescribed too many medications, and sometimes that can lead to delusions and hallucinations and paranoia. So some people will even look at that, isolation, withdrawal, loneliness, low self-esteem, that can also push you into the realm of being paranoid and having delusions and having hallucinations. If you want to learn what those differences are, click into my first video, part 1 of this video up here. And this is why sometimes it's really hard to be believed. Now, are there some situations where maybe you shouldn't be believed, or certain individuals shouldn't be believed because it is a delusion, it is paranoia, it is an illness? Oh, absolutely. But what about those people who kind of fall in the middle, right? Those people who are very educated, very intelligent, very self-aware. Do we categorize them as being ill as well? Delusional, paranoid? There has to be another definition for this. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. An individual, if this is you, an individual who is struggling with these altered perceptions of reality, it's pretty common that your mood can fall down or your anxiety can go up as a result of the experience. So we would call it mood congruent delusions, or mood congruent paranoia, or mood congruent depression, meaning that anytime symptoms hit you, or anytime you start to experience certain symptoms, it's possible that your mood goes down with the symptoms, right? An example of this would be, let's say you're highly paranoid and you're looking over your shoulder every day and you're afraid that you're being stalked and you're afraid that you're being watched and you feel all alone. There is a possibility that because of that, you become depressed, and it's congruent with your mood. Those paranoid symptoms, delusional symptoms, symptoms of being afraid, symptoms that come up as a result of feeling like you're being stalked. It's mood congruent. Your mood goes with it. Let me also throw out here too that some individuals who are experiencing delusions, hallucinations, or they're experiencing altered perceptions of reality, sometimes cognitions are intact, meaning that there's nothing here that would show that you can't think. There's nothing here that would show that memory is altered. Insight tends to be lacking sometimes, meaning that you may not have insight into your own experiences as much as you need to, and fear can get in the way. Paranoia can get in the way of you processing things. So insight can be a little iffy, but for the most part, everything seems to be intact. Emotional distress, stress, increased emotional reactions to things, anger and irritability seems to go up, because you feel like no one's believing you, no one's understanding you, and here you are all alone suffering with thoughts and feelings, and nobody believes you, nobody's getting you. It's really difficult to deal with. Stay tuned with me this week, live on Saturday. I'm going to be talking about this, right? How do you deal with people who don't believe you, and how do you navigate this area? So stay tuned. Thank you so much for being with me in today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.